After Twitter mass layoffs announced at Facebook, 11,000 people will be losing their jobs. Many layoffs expected in India as Meta loses steam. Joining us now, two special guests, Manish Maheshwari, former CEO of Twitter India, and Manish Sabharwal, the chairperson and co-founder of TeamLease Services. Manish Maheshwari, to you first. First, Twitter, now Facebook. Is this a case or two cases of two huge international companies, getting ahead of themselves and projecting something that none of them could actually achieve?
See, I won't say it's about not being able to achieve. I think there are two things happening, right? One is a secular trend towards a recession, and I think companies are sort of tightening up their belts towards that and sort of making sure that they are at the right size. At the same time, the second thing is much more specific to company. In case of Twitter, it was acquisition by Elon and change in business strategy. In case of Meta, I think they have been hit by three things simultaneously. One is softness on their ad revenues, primarily because of the privacy policy of Apple, which went into effect last year. Second is they have, their user growth has slowed, primarily because they have hit the limit of, how many daily active users they can have. And thirdly, they have made an oversized commitment to metaverse. And I think that is something that investors are really wary about. I think their stock price has dropped by 75%. Just this year. I mean, they were close to a market cap of 1 trillion. And right now they sit at a market cap of $50 billion. So I think they have been hit by these three factors simultaneously. And I think that is why you see a huge layoff. And 11,000 employees in a tech company, it's a very large number.
And Manish, you expect a large number of people in India would also be expected by this. They are very large in India, is Meta.
Yeah, I think there would be implication on India as well. I think we already saw that, the head of Twitter of Meta India, Ajit, also moved on. And yes. I think there could also mean some kind of impact there as well.
You think he was impacted by this? Ajit Mohan, the head of Facebook of Meta in India? Lost that line with him. We'll try and come back. Manish Sabharwal, why don't you come in over here, co-founder of TeamLease? Do you think that the head of Facebook India moving on had something to do with what we are seeing now?
No, I don't think so. I think that decision was made before. So I think that, it's important to recognize that employment has shifted from being a lifetime contract to a taxi cab relationship. Employers and employees now don't treat employment the way that it used to be. So it's important to sort of recognize that taking risks is not illegal. There was a risk which Meta took in expanding substantially, thinking that the COVID digital super cycle would be permanent. That hasn't worked out, and shareholders don't pay salaries, customers do. And if customers are on strike, there will have to be some adjustments.
These aren't some adjustments, though. These are huge adjustments. If you look at the India story, I mean, is it enough for Mark Zuckerberg to actually say, sorry, you're out of a job? In the case of India, between Twitter and Facebook, we don't really know. It could be well above 1,000 jobs which actually disappear. Where do these people go?
I mean, I'm not sure employment is what it used to be. I can make the point again. I think if you want a guarantee, go buy a toaster, right? I mean, guarantees are not what employment is anymore. And employees resign all the time. So it's a tragedy on all sides. The company has already suffered. The employees will suffer. But sometimes we have to recognize that the world is a much more different and much more difficult and much more volatile and much more uncertain place than it used to be. So either we can tell entrepreneurs not to take risks and only hire people whom they can guarantee lifetime employment, or entrepreneurs will take risks and, stupidity or mistakes are not illegal. So
the fact that accountability, I mean, Zuckerberg himself says, I want to take accountability for these decisions and for how we got here. I know this is tough for everyone, and I'm especially sorry to those impacted. And then boom, people lose their jobs and he remains the boss. Of course, he started Facebook, so it's his company. Doesn't there seem to be an injustice just to something like that?
I don't know. I mean, entrepreneurs, if you want to vilify entrepreneurship for offering lifetime employment, I don't think even governments offer lifetime employment anymore. So it is a risk. Risks don't work out. And, if we don't want risk taking, I mean, we love the upside of risk
I understand risks, but I'm just, I just find it unbelievable that 11,000 people would get canned in one go. I mean, I'll put it bluntly. I just find it unbelievable that a company as large as Facebook, as Meta, would actually do this. I mean, this is the gold standard of employment in that sector. And to see them having made mistakes, despite being, a company which has been financially so well off, to the extent where they are laying off 11,000 people, I think one needs to ponder. That's why I'm asking. Not questioning the spirit of entrepreneurship at all.
I think mistakes get made. I think over the last 5-10 years, the cost of money being close to zero led to an asset super cycle in private and public markets. That excessive money led to excessive valuations. It also led to agony and ecstasy in terms of corporate animal spirits. So
sure.
I think that their stock price is down 70%. There is a lot of pain for the board. There is a lot of pain for the executives. Yeah. So I think that we live in a much more volatile and uncertain world. So I think I'm intrigued by your use of the word unbelievable, because this is probably just the beginning of a global downturn. So
that's important.
Be impacted by media.
That's an important point. Manish Maheshwari, would you agree that we've been talking about Twitter and Meta in India? We've seen Byju's have layoffs. There have been other companies in this space which have also had layoffs. That given the state of the global economy and the downturn expected in the West, this could just be the beginning?
Yeah, this could be the beginning in the sense that, economies go through a cycle, right? So we are into a cycle where things are contracting, the cost of money is increasing, so people are becoming more choiceful about investment. And I think this is probably where we will see this kind of trend to continue for at least a few months, if not quarters, and then probably the pendulum will swing back again. So that's what I believe, that most investments will shrink, and also existing companies will face a revenue crunch. And as a result, they will have to realign their P&L and also their cost structure.
Manish Sabharwal, final question to you. What has Zuckerberg or Meta done wrong in the last little while since COVID for them to have taken these decisions? What have they invested in which has not worked out?
I think everybody assumed that the digitization of 2030 or 2040 was being brought forward to 2020. I mean, Zoom, which we are using, their stock price is down 80%, and so is Peloton. So there were certain companies which people thought would permanently benefit from COVID. And, postmortems have a certainty that prescriptions don't. Every doctor will tell you that. I think every entrepreneur knows that if we're getting 60 to 70% of our bets right, then we're doing pretty well. This is in the 40% which didn't work out. So I think that they assumed that advertising revenue would hold up. They assumed that the migration from physical commerce to e-commerce would, which was almost 100% during COVID, would at least stay at 70, 80%. Those assumptions have not worked out. Now, shareholders don't pay salaries, customers do. If customers and advertisers are evacuating the platform or holding back advertising dollars, then, companies will have to adjust, and hopefully they will learn from this and come back much stronger and, hire many more than these 14,000 people. But I think if we want to live in a globalized, in a globalized world, then these kind of contagions are par for the course. There are good cycles and bad cycles. We're currently in a difficult cycle. Right. I think we can use it to find blame, or we can use it to recognize.
As I wrap up this program, I'm still tempted to more than sort of think a little bit about those who've lost their jobs. Brilliant professionals, highly educated, highly trained and successful in the assignments which they were given, out of a job because of decisions taken for various factors. And who knows where they're going to get these jobs. Does India, for example, even have room for so many highly trained professionals in certain areas? We leave it there. Thanks very much for your perspectives on this huge decision. Earlier by Twitter, now by Meta. Gigantic job cuts, 11,000 Meta employees sacked.